Today's talk focuses on the Model 3 delays and software issues, number one. Number two, we take a look at likelihood of issues like this affecting production of the Model 3 and traveling across country offering free rides by a new Model 3 owner. This is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Thanks once again for taking time out. I was sort of debating on whether or not to make this show, but first, let me say, if this is your first time on the channel, please take time to like and subscribe. Also, if you're returning, welcome back. First part of our discussion today focuses on kind of what's going on with new deliveries as Model 3s. A good buddy of mine is an early owner number 5000 of a Model S, and one of his good friends was supposed to take delivery 2 days ago, was told that there was a engine light that had popped up, and so his delivery was delayed a day, I believe, till Friday. And so I'll definitely be having some what does he think of the car after a few days of ownership comments coming up. But it kind of seems to me that based on the feedback that's coming in, there seem to be some software issues related to how the battery interfaces with the car. And I think it's an issue. Unfortunately, it pushed the delivery back overnight. But from what I can tell, we're not in the catastrophic zone of issues, and therefore it's not a huge deal. I will say that I've been intrigued because we've had maybe 4 incidences that have not been heavily reported where there seems to be some overheating issues with the Model 3 battery, and those issues seem to be fairly quickly resolved, mostly by letting the car cool down and then firing it up and getting going. So I don't know more than that. We don't have a huge data sample of what's going on because things have been fairly secretive thus far. So hence, bottom line is deliveries are being taken by non-employee owners. Tesla's done a good job of keeping everything in California for now on deliveries so that these type of issues can be addressed before they have to start doing very long distance repair work to solve them. So I expect that we'll stay in California for the next month or so, perhaps more, to make sure that the cars are stable before we start seeing them enter other states in the United States. Speaking of entering other states, if you look on Facebook, there's actually a new Model 3 owner who's currently doing a cross-country journey in which he's offering free test drives to those on the list to purchase. And I was actually surprised to learn that they're doing 140 miles an hour on video, which hopefully doesn't land him in jail or a ticket. But it's great to see that the car is capable of those kind of speeds without sort of compromises, meaning that, if you're running it that hot, that hard, you can often end up with the battery needs to cool down, sort of, it almost shut down of the vehicle. Not that it completely shut down, but it basically takes away a lot of the performance so the battery can recover itself a bit. So I highly recommend, if you're interested in a serious Model 3 enthusiast, to jump up on Facebook and schedule your drive, or even watching others do the drive, to sort of get a feel for where we are at this stage of the vehicle. The interesting thing I think about this also is that during this, they actually highlight a number of issues that they've been having software-wise. And I think this is where Tesla has an advantage, because as these are identified, that information can roll back to the factory and sort of the software bugs can be cleaned up, which is what I think is happening right now. The final thing I wanted to explore today is a whole idea of the mystery battery situation, both as it relates to Tesla as well as how it relates to other firms as well. So basically, as we all know, there was an issue that popped up, I believe in 2012, is when the kind of chief technical officer of Tesla was getting ready for how they were going to build the Model 3. So as you know, he traveled around the world to all the major battery manufacturers and informed them what he was trying to accomplish. And they informed him that the batteries he wanted for 500,000 vehicles a year were not available, and that's the entire production of the world for that year. Hence why the Gigafactory was built. Now, it's kind of an interesting situation right now because based on the model of the Gigafactory and how long it takes for it to build, I haven't really seen any Gigafactory size construction projects underway. There have been discussions of expansions of existing facilities in Korea, a small facility that I've read about happening in Northern Europe. But there hasn't been a great deal of battery build-outs that have been announced, even though what's happened is as many as 20 big auto companies have announced that as much as 25 to 50%, and in the case of Volvo, 100% of their vehicles are going to be electric plug-ins. So the real mystery question of the day is, where are all those batteries going to come from? Even in the case of Daimler-Benz, they have a truck that's ready to go. And the problem they're having is that they've been testing and preparing for this truck for 8 years. So the truck is ready at the Class 6 and Class 7 level. But they still have to build their sort of small mega factory to provide batteries for this. And they're delayed by another year until it's completed. So there's this huge mystery going on. First, in the global companies that are planning to enter the electric business, like where are they going to all get their batteries from? Because from what I can tell, if you want to, maybe there's about 500,000 cars worth of batteries being added each year in terms of new production line, and that's kind of on the high side of what's out there. But the demand side seems to be somewhere in the 2, 3, 4 million vehicles a year. This includes trucks and cars. And so I don't see how this is going to be addressed. As I've shared earlier, I think that we're going to see a situation where it's triage, that the high-end vehicles are targeted for this because of both price and availability of batteries. And as you move down the price curve, you'll find more hybrids, etc., until this whole thing can be worked out. My gut is telling me the other solution that many people are waiting on is for somebody to move this into a solid state situation that would reduce manufacturing time and cost, and then everybody will be fine. But based on what's here now, it just smells like there aren't going to be enough batteries for anybody for another 8 to 10 years. And this kind of feeds into a discussion that the CEO of Cummins was having about the fact that diesel engines are fine right now because nobody can build enough trucks to impact them in any significant way. This brings me over to Tesla and Tesla's battery strategy, which I think is kind of fascinating and kind of doesn't make sense. What I mean by that is that if you think it through, Tesla's Gigafactory, as stated, is a 500,000 vehicles per year facility when it comes to batteries. Now, I think what the assumption is after they get through the first 500,000 buyers of the Model 3, after that, everybody is going to say, we've had enough Model 3s, bring out the small SUV based on the Model 3 platform, trucks, as well as the new Roadster. And I'm sitting there going, what if a lot of people like the Model 3 and decide they're going to buy the car after everyone in the waiting list is sold? I would argue that once the Model 3 is out there and it's doing well, I think there's another 300,000-400,000 people a year that might end up buying that car. And it's a relatively small percentage of the number of vehicles being produced and sold around the world. So that's a very likely scenario. Even 500,000 wouldn't be out of line. The question pops up then is, if you have a truck that consumes maybe 4 battery packs, where exactly are those battery packs going to come from? And I think the answer is by reducing the count of the number of Model 3s that are being produced to accommodate the batteries needed for trucks as well as for the Roadster. Now, this brings up a further question that I'm fascinated by, which is if you don't have a second gigafactory yet and all the supplies are consumed by your existing vehicles, the question is like, what happens now in terms of battery supplies? I guess you could theoretically increase the number of buys of 18650s or something like that as a solution, but kind of doesn't work based on how the new stuff is going. So basically what we have going on right now is a bidding war is going on between different types of vehicles, even within Tesla, for what products will get batteries. And I believe in this bidding war. In theory, the truck should really win out because of the stated goal, which is reduction of pollution that Tesla has discussed. And frankly, the margins are way bigger on trucks than they are on the other types of vehicles. So I'm fascinated by how this is all going to play out. I'm hopeful that another gigafactory starts up in the next 3 to 6 months and is finished, 2 to 3 years out, so it can help address the issues I just brought up. But frankly, right now, there's a global shortage of batteries, and that shortage is starting to bounce into cobalt and other raw materials that go into the batteries. So I just think that, Tesla has a good situation and that they have a monopoly in many areas of what they're doing, so they'll be fine. But in terms of growth of sales, etc., I'm kind of not seeing it. This even brings up a random question that came up to mind, which was, if you have a battery pack or there are a certain number of battery packs or motors that go into a truck, should you even consider looking at routes for those 18-wheelers or semis that are even shorter, where you could consume maybe half of the 300 or 500 mile battery and make it a 2 to 250 mile electric truck, and now you're able to spread those batteries across 2 vehicles because the value proposition is strong enough. Let's say, for example, it's just a heavy mountain run and you don't need a full 300 to 500 miles. You just need that 200 miles through the mountains. That's sufficient. And so in that circumstance, you could theoretically spread battery packs over more vehicles. So I don't have the answer to this, but I just think that the whole issue of batteries is a legitimate problem nobody has the answer to right now. And it'd be nice to see some thinking of process from Tesla in that regard, because even now Elon Musk is talking about wanting to produce a pickup truck, and you already don't have enough batteries for the 3 products that are getting it. And now if you add the pickup truck on, I think it even makes the problem worse. So this is an interesting problem. We'll see how it's solved. Actually looking forward to any and all comments that you guys may have. This is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Don't forget, sign up for your Model 3 free test drive with a current owner. Tschüss, macht's gut. Au revoir, Lehitraot, Choda Hafez. And look forward to our next conversation. And I think that'll do it for today.